Welcome to Take 92 Tone School Volume 1, Bass Guitar. Today we're going to go through some of the things that you might need to know to get a quick, great sounding rock and roll bass tone. First off, you want to have a Fender P bass. In this case, the American Standard. Ampeg is my amp of choice, in this case the SVT2 with the 810 cabinet. We also will be talking about the SansAmp bass driver, RBI. And we're also going to discuss microphones, beginning with the Shure Beta 52. This mic is designed for kick drum. It naturally has a low presence with a high attack for the bass drum beater. When added in with an SM57 to emphasize the mid-range, you use these mics together as opposed to having to use EQ. You need a little more mid, you bring up the 57. You need a little more bass or attack, you bring up the 52. They work very well together. Next up is mic placement. It is very important where you place the microphone. In the inside on the speaker cone is the brightest part, whereas the outside is the darker, bassier part. So what engineers commonly do is find a place right near the edge of the cone where you get a sweet balance. I tend to go a little bit more inward and actually angle out towards the edge of the cone just a little bit. And we'll repeat this motion on the Beta 52 right here. Now, you generally don't have a tape measure, but it's important that the microphones are an equal distance away from the source sound, or you risk getting phase issues. I use the first knuckle, as shown here. Now we have an equal distance from each microphone. When setting your input levels, it's important to set them as equally as possible, and at a low enough volume as to not create any unwanted distortion. Next, we're going to talk about amp settings. In this case, we have set up the amp completely flat, meaning there's no boost or reduction of any EQ across the amp. Now we go to the switching. The ultra-low setting will bring the SVT classic tone to life, accentuating the bass and scooping out the mid-range just a little bit. Now I'm going to do a couple of quick adjustments. We'll add a little bit of bass. The frequency selection will allow you to choose which frequencies your mid-range will control. In this case, we're going to go about 450, which is number 2, and turn that down by a couple of decibels. What this is going to do is get rid of that kind of honky mid-range tone that the Fender carries with it. Then we bring up a little bit of treble for extra pick attack and clarity. From here, there's a couple of other switches we can try. The bright switch, or instead, the ultra high switch. Though both of these sound pretty good, I don't find them as necessary as I do on the SVT Classic. The SVT2 is slightly brighter, and so we'll go to graphic EQ and make a couple of slider adjustments. We'll bring in, yet again, just a little bit of the bass, nothing too low where you would interfere with the kick drum, or couldn't really hear it even on the recording. Get rid of a little bit of that mid-range again, between 3 and 500. And this is really just quickly, so when you're doing it at home, you may want to take more time to examine the actual tones. I boost a little around 2K, so the upper mid-range is that P-bass snarl, and then just a little bit at 10K to get the high-end clarity. Our gain, though missing the knob cap, is pointed directly straight up. There's a drive function on here that will add a little tube saturation. Now I'll go to the SansAmp RBI. I have run mine through the effects loop as to color the tone as little as possible. The goal of this exercise will be to make the activated SansAmp sound exactly like the inactivated SansAmp. Using this to bypass the effect, I'm able to duplicate the sound in whole. Notice the blend knob. I use this instead of a big muff or other similar distortion pedal because it allows me a wet-dry blend that will not change the tone that my amp has given me. Now that we have our tone set, I'm going to turn up the overdrive. From here, we have a little bit of added hair and saturation to the natural sound we've created with our amplifier. And this concludes Volume 1 of Take 92 Tone School. We hope you learned a couple of things. And again, make sure to really take your time and listen when doing this at home. This is Sam Whartonby reminding you that we're Take 92, and yes, we're still closed.